Hello and welcome to the show. We are here at the top of Mount Chiliad for some more downhill chaos. Our first vehicle today is the Camaro SS in bright orange with the black stripes. I very much like the livery on this car. Now, as far as kind of expectations go with these kind of cars, they tend to be pretty decent going down here. We're never likely to see them challenging the very fastest of the supercars. But this first part of the run, I was actually quite impressed with the Camaro on this first attempt. It actually dealt very, very well. Okay, we don't quite have the monstrous levels of power as the supercars do and so on, but it was dealing with everything the course could throw at it. Unfortunately, I made a little mistake, ran a tad wide. The back end kind of got caught on a bump, it tipped me sideways, and then we're going to go tumbling down. It's a slightly peculiar part of the mountain. I don't think I've ever had very many cars anyway go off here. Normally, it's on the landing of the jump. You don't normally fall off the course just before the jump. So yeah, we kind of speared off into into a slightly different part of Chiliad. The back end of this car was perhaps its biggest problem. It was a little bit of a strange one as well. It was quite easy to spin this car around, which I wasn't perhaps expecting. The first run was really quite good from this car, but yeah, after that it was proven to be quite easy to spin the vehicle. And another problem, I could manage to roll it. That was, again, the first couple of runs, it never felt like it was going to roll at all. I felt like I could attack these corners, but sure enough, when I started attacking them more, the Camaro would go on to its roof. We get a little bit more two-wheel action, puts us out a little bit too wide for the takeoff, and then it's all sort of wrongs on the landing, and the Camaro goes for another, oh, we may have splattered a hiker as well in all of that. You got to be, yeah, pretty precise with this car. If you run it a little too close to the inside of the corners, I mean, we're seeing plenty of vehicles roll at them locations. I wasn't expecting the Camaro to be one of them, but if you clip it just wrong, you will send the car on to its roof. But on the most part, that wasn't a huge issue. As I said, the bigger problem was trying to keep the back of the car in check. Much time was spent spinning around with this vehicle, which again was not something that I necessarily expected. I think it's kind of the rear of the car gets bounced up along these bumps quite a lot, so that kind of chucks it up and causes some issues. This time around I was just trying to correct the car after getting a slightly wonky landing, and well, I couldn't correct it in time. I kind of twitched the car and got it flung off sideways. Very similar to sort of a Forza simulation steering. That particular one there, trying to catch it and then got it flung off the mountain. This was quite an annoying one. Had a pretty decent run coming around the second to last corner here. It was a bump further down the line that caused issues. Not the normal bumpy part of the corner there that saw the Camaro spun around. It was like a secondary bump almost afterwards that the Camaro started going, and I couldn't save it in time. So yeah, it was a strange one, this one. The suspension, on the most part, felt like it dealt with these bumps. Like this first part here, I had no problems with. It really chucked the car down here, carried lots of speed, get lots of airtime down there. I'm even running off the course slightly. Can recover it back on, absolutely no problems. But it's if the back end, almost on its own, gets fired up into the air, that's when we have some real issues with the car wanting to turn round. So yeah, that was something to be aware of. It was absolutely lovely through this part of the course, coming down the hill there and then around the hairpin as well. Very, very nice car to get through those corners. You really could chuck this thing around. The brakes were pretty solid on it as well. As I said at the start, you know, the acceleration was all right, but it's certainly not the fastest car that we have had going down here. Then we've got to start being quite wary of some of these bigger jumps. This one here was a little bit of a problem. Again, we get a bit of a bounce up on the landing. The front does go quite a long way up in the air. Managed to recover it all. You don't normally get away with such a big bounce on the landing through there. Across this fast jump, we do again get a little bounced up in the air, but that time much more controllable as we come down towards the very nasty second to last corner across all of these bumps. But the Camaro is okay this time around. We still do get a little bit of a slide across there, but it could be controlled this time around, and then a run towards the line for the Chevrolet. Yeah, a little bit of a strange one, this car. It felt pretty good on the most part going down Chiliad, but just a few things could upset it, and it was quite easy if it got upset to just spin it around in a circle. And then I promptly managed to do a stupid. May not have quite judged that one right when I went to turn the car around, and have managed to get the Chevy a little bit It's pretty wedged there. It's not really going anywhere at that point. Up next, we have got a Volvo, the 945 estate car. We've had a few estates go down Chiliad. Was kind of curious to see how this one would do. Of all the vehicles that were going down today, I was expecting if any of them were likely to roll over, it would probably be the Volvo. That wasn't actually the case. With this car, as we come down towards the first corner, the hikers are completely oblivious until the car is absolutely alongside them as we're coming towards these bumps and jumps. I get the car slightly caught on, I think it's the fence or the bushes down there. We lose absolutely all of the momentum on this first run, but that was the only sort of main problem to that part of the course, and things again were going very, very well for the Volvo. This thing you could carry a lot of speed in this car, so much speed I got a little carried away trying to fire it down the side road and promptly overcooked it. I took far too much speed trying to kind of cut down towards the corner, and yeah, it spent too much time in the air, and we ended up well off the course. But you could get away with a lot of speed in this car across jumps and on landings and so on that I haven't been able to with previous vehicles. That time out, running a little bit wide across some rocks was not a good idea at all, as it just bounces the car slightly to the left, and on such a narrow part of the course, if you make a little mistake or you get fired across because you bounced off a fence or the rocks or so on, you're gonna go tumbling down the side of the mountain. This one here, you see, I could really run the inside corner, and the Volvo did not want to roll at all. If I'd done that in the Camaro, it would have ended up on its roof very easily, but in the Volvo, I made a mistake because I cut too much of the corner, but yeah, it was not at all interested in rolling over. Again, carrying fantastic speed across that landing as we fire it down this little chute, but still perhaps being a little too brave with the car. I managed to get it a little carried away in the braking zone there, couldn't pull it up in time for the corner, and kind of getting it slightly out of control across the bumps was also less than ideal. Didn't take too long though to get a good run out of this car. A really very, very solid vehicle, this one, for driving down Chiliad. I don't quite know how it does it, and it's quite difficult to explain, but you can take a lot of speed over some of these jumps. It's kind of on the landings. You can get away with maintaining speed very well on the landings and still being able to control the car and so on. And that's where the Volvo is very, very strong around here, and the fact that it does not want to roll over at all. Around the course, it was very, very well behaved with all of that. It gets turned in nicely to these tight corners. The hairpin, a little bit more of a pain in this car. It is a relatively long vehicle, but still I had no major problems through that part of the course as we're coming across this particular jump. You can see how much more speed I can take through this corner. It's about 10 miles an hour more through that turn than I could with the Camaro. You can just put more power down across these bumps on the dirt than you could in quite a lot of the other vehicles, in all honesty. And down here as well, it maintains speed so well, despite kind of slightly sliding around and bouncing a little bit on the landing. Carries an awful lot of speed, and this jump here could carry good speed across. You could keep your foot down for a lot longer. Very, very controllable bouncing across these. I was really impressed. Drives very, very well down here. Then up towards the second to last corner, bouncing across here was no problem. It was this secondary bump again. It's almost as if the back of the car, kind of like the front of the car kind of completes the jump. The back of the car almost slams down on the ground and causes some issues. That's kind of what it looks like. Certainly with the Volvo, it's more noticeable, being a little bit longer. Yeah, I got a little bit of a sideways scary moment coming up towards that final corner, but it made it across the line. Yeah, this was a really very, very nice vehicle. Very nice vehicle to drive down Chiliad. Wasn't expecting it to be as good as it was. You could really push the car and get away with carrying a lot of corner speed in this vehicle. It was really, really good over the bumps and really good at carrying speed across the bumps and on the landings of the jumps. Again, we haven't got the supercar power in the Volvo, but for what it is, yeah, I thought it was a really rather solid car. Our final vehicle, I saw this mod, I had to give it a go. It is a kart cross vehicle. It's, yeah, kind of a single-seater off-road racing buggy sort of thing, go-kart perhaps. It looks crazy, and I was very much looking forward to driving it down Chiliad. The hikers perhaps less enthused by it, as it came straight over the hill and clobbered two of them. Very, very quick accelerating, this kart, but not very good on the brakes at all. As things go wrong very, very quickly, and we end up going face first into a rock face and manage to explode it. Yeah, there's lots and lots of acceleration, pretty good grip through the corners as well, but it doesn't get stopped. There's just absolutely no brakes, it seems, in this car. Admittedly, it's not helped by the fact that it does accelerate so quickly, so you are going very, very fast when you get to the corners. But yeah, I was having real difficulties getting this vehicle stopped. You saw that time there, I ran a little bit too wide and had a wheel caught up on some rocks, and then by the time I got it all back together again, we were nowhere near making the corner around these sections. Tried to go on the power a little bit too soon. It is rear-wheel drive, and in doing that, got it kind of sliding a little too much and managed to bounce off the rock face on the inside. That was not a particularly clever idea, and coming across this fast jump will get it just about under control. Don't go careering off from the jump landing, but then carry too much speed coming down this the little narrow road, and that's not going to work for this one. You can see how much it is a struggle to get it back under control once it's fallen off the course even. The brakes just aren't really quite powerful enough for the vehicle. Just can't get it stopped. This bit was a little bit of a pain as well, trying to judge things right. So easy to run wide, and as you do, you're just not going to have the grip to get the car through the corner, and then I can't stop it for the next turn. A very unspectacular crash, that one, but that is kind of how things often went, and a little too much speed across the jump, just ran a tad wide. It was still under control. We weren't bouncing up massively on the landing, but was running a bit too wide on the landing of the jump. Just sort of the rear wheel caught, flicked it up into the air, and you're going to go tumbling off the mountain if you do that. A very common, probably the most common place to have a big off with any vehicles on this particular course. So it took a little while to get the hang of this vehicle. Perhaps not quite as bad as some. Once I'd figured out that you just had to brake really early with this, then yeah, kind of got the hang of it. A little bit of a shame, really. I was thinking that this could go really very quickly down this particular course. There is a huge amount of acceleration. Suspension is pretty good at dealing with the demands around here. Although I have just been noticing while watching this commentating, it does spend a lot of time with three wheels on the road, with one of the rear wheels dangling around in the air. That's probably not helping massively. But yeah, if it wasn't for the fact that the brakes take so long to get this thing stopped, I suspect this would be really very fast. But you just spend so long waiting. You got to brake so early for some of these corners to make sure you can get it slowed down and get it around. Again, I mean, we're 10 miles an hour down on the Volvo through that particular corner. It just, yeah, it's a good vehicle. Again, we're up onto three wheels, but you do tend to have to be quite a lot slower into the corners, because I don't trust the brakes on this car. Whereas with the Volvo, you could really chuck it around the course, completely throw it through the corners and so on. This not quite so much. You have to be a little bit carefuler with this car and spend a lot of time on the brakes, making sure it's slow enough, because you can't kind of make the last minute adjustments because it doesn't have got the stopping power pretty much. And then we're coming up towards the second to last corner. Lots of time has been spent on the brakes. We don't have a big sideways moment across the bumps, thankfully, in this, and it is flat out around the final turn as we fly across the line in the kart cross car, and then promptly can't get it stopped, so I'll take this secondary jump over here. Yeah, a really interesting vehicle. I think it would be fantastic fun to drive. It just needs a little bit more on the braking power. It is very good fun to drive as it is, but it just doesn't really get stopped at all. Yeah, plenty of power, plenty of acceleration in this, and the suspension's pretty good on the most part, but you have to slow down so much for the corners. You have to brake so early. Yeah, that kind of holds it back a little bit, but a really cool vehicle to have in GTA 5. It's yeah, certainly something a little bit different, even if it does struggle slightly getting down Mount Chiliad. Anyway, it is on to the times, and the fastest vehicle for the day was the Volvo. That doesn't particularly surprise me either, considering how well it drove. A 125.8 puts it in 27th place, which is pretty damn respectable. It's only a couple of tenths down on the Lotus Exige, the Dubster, the 6x6 Dubster. That's quick. It's quicker than the Banshee. Lotus 49, it's faster than in the Blackfin. That is also the fastest of the estate cars as well, because I think the Insignia is down in 30 somewheres. In fact, there is the Insignia in 36th. Very, very good car, the Volvo. The Camaro goes into 39th, 128.6. Same time as the Holden Monaro. Kind of getting a little bit of a muscle car section going on around here. Again, fairly decent time for that car, considering the issues we had with rear end grip. It goes quicker than the Ferrari 458, quicker than the M1 Pro car, and quicker than the Shelby Cobra. And then finally, down towards the bottom of the table, we have the Kart Cross vehicle, a 134.8 in 71st place, a tenth of a second faster than the Windsor. That's all down to the brakes. It just doesn't stop. You spend so much time on the brakes with that car, trying to slow it down for corners and having to be cautious, that, yeah, not particularly surprising with that one. But that is it for this video. I'll put a link to all of the mods that I have used in the description, so you can download them, have a go with them yourself. But that's it from me. Thank you very much for watching, and until next time, goodbye.